Good morning.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Keeper Eric and Keeper Grace here in Zoolab. And we brought some friends. We brought some African pygmy hedgehogs to show you today. They live in Zoolab, but they are some of our education animals. So they're not out on display. You don't typically see them when you're here at the zoo. But we do have them. We take them out for programs occasionally. And these two are actually two that we bred here. Their parents are in the back in the Zoolab kitchen. And these two are destined to go to another zoo and become education animals there. So we've had success breeding these in the past, and we will ship them out to other zoos because they can make good education animals. What you're looking at is a brother-sister right now. They're not usually together because the males are able to breed at 40 days, which is really quickly. That's really young. And if we keep them with their mom any longer than that, then they will breed with their mother. That breeding instinct is really strong. So we have to separate them pretty quick. And the boys can live together, and then the girls can stay with mom for a little bit longer. These guys were born on January 13th, so just about 7 months old, right? Yeah. And so they're almost full grown. They're not as big as they're going to get, but they are pretty close. There are 17 species of hedgehogs that live in Africa and Asia and Europe. And this is one of the African species, obviously, also called a four-toed hedgehog. And they live in generally grassland areas. And they're an insectivore. So the majority of their diet is going to be insects that they can dig up out of the ground. They do have long claws that they use for digging. And so they're going to eat grubs and termites and all sorts of things like that. They will eat fruits and vegetables as well. Here at the zoo we feed them a processed insectivore diet. That's the same thing we give to our tree shrews and our armadillos. Yeah. And then they also get a little bit of fruit, and they do get some mealworms and some waxworms. They're not real great at catching crickets. They're a little slow, but they will sometimes eat crickets if they can catch them. Hedgehogs are spiny. That is their defense mechanism. This particular species, we had some fallout. They're a modified type of hair, but it does so they will come out just like those two on Grace's finger. Just like you lose hair, they lose their spines. But they are attached fairly tightly, and they can get those spines to stand up based on how they tense their muscles. When something's hair stands up, we call it being piloerect. So the female is pretty relaxed right now. She's the one who you can see her face, and then the male, he's the one that's kind of
He's kind of a nervous boy.
yeah. And if I try to touch him,
He'll go back into a ball.
yeah, he's gonna try to go into a ball. And so when he's like this, it's really hard to pick him up because he's sharp, and then he jumps on top of that too.
It's good training and practice for him to have him calm down for programs and such.
So these guys do have predators, even though they're pretty spiny. The predators they have are eagle owls. Not the eagle owls that you saw on our video a couple weeks ago, but an African type of eagle owl, as well as hyenas and jackals and honey badgers. You can imagine that not much is going to stop a honey badger. They're not going to be afraid of a few spines. One of the related species that we really like a lot here, but we haven't had in many, many years, are the Tenrecs, and those are from Madagascar. And those look really similar, and they're somewhat related, but those spines are nowhere near as sharp and hard. They're a little softer. So you can handle a Tenrec without gloves. Whereas if I handle these guys without gloves, my hands hurt because the spines are...
So my mom asked, how do you pick them up?
I use a pair of leather gloves. Sometimes, let's see if the female will be real good. Sometimes if they're calm, you can pick up underneath them. Let's see if we can get it. Here we go. So she's being really good. You see that belly is really soft. There's no spines on the belly. So the spines are just on the back, and they do curl up into a ball to protect their belly. Stay here. Don't go off the table. Go that way. So if you can get underneath them and they don't roll up in a ball, you're good. Your problem is when you don't have any sort of gloves, they roll up into a ball, and you're unprotected. It stings a little bit. Do we have some questions?
You've answered the questions. Why are they shaking, and how do you pick them up?
Yeah, the shaking is just, it's them being defensive. A little bit more. So yeah, my radio down small.
My radio's on too.
So we try to handle these guys as much as we can, but we're not able to spend as much time with them as we would like, so that they're always calm and they don't mind being held. Now, this is a species that you can have as a pet.
You and my mom are like on the same wavelength today. You're answering her next question.
Now, I will say, I think there are certain states where you can't have these, like California. Mm-hmm. They have lots of extra rules and regulations. But here in Illinois, you can have them as pets. And are they a good pet? That depends on how much time you spend with them and their personalities. Sometimes you get a hedgehog that just does not like being held and picked up. And no matter what you do, how much time you spend, they never get really good around people. These guys are nocturnal, so they're going to be out banging around all night long. They're not going to be sleeping at night when you are. So unless you get them out, you probably won't see them much during the day. Another thing to consider is that the hedgehogs we have in the pet industry, and sometimes the zoo industry, are very prone to getting cancer. So they're very inbred, meaning that when they first brought them in, that they bred the same family groups to each other. So the genes for cancer weren't able to be bred out. So once you got one or two with cancer, the genes just kept spreading through the population. So it is one thing to consider. These guys can live 3 to 6 years, but there's always a possibility that they could die sooner.
You said males reach maturity at 40 days. Is it the same for females?
I think females are a little bit behind that, and I don't have that number in front of me. But,
for some reason, 9 months pops into my head.
Yeah.
I could be wrong, but
usually the males, like our
it's like the goats too.
yeah, exactly, our goats.
Like goats are fertile at 8 weeks, where females aren't fertile for like a year and a half.
Right. So, but yeah, we don't want to keep a sister with a brother just because if she does, whenever she does become fertile, we don't want to have to worry about separating her out, or if she develops a little sooner than we were ready for, we don't have to worry about it.
Valerie would like to know if these guys have names.
They do not have names yet. We knew these two were going to be going out to other zoos, so we did not name them. We have little themes here in the Zoolab and the zoo education, and our hedgehogs all have names of soul singers. So Dad, I think, is Luther, and Mom is, I forget who Mom ended up being. But we've had an Aretha, we've had a Sam, we have a Janice. So that's kind of the theme. So if we wanted to name them, we actually have another boy I didn't bring out. We had a Patty. The dog. So yeah, if you guys have thoughts on soul singers.
Soul singers.
Yeah, we had a Marvin.
Oh, Mike had a hedgehog named Dame Judy Hedge.
Ah,
I like that.
Yes.
He also said his hedgehog escaped and lived 3 months in his house before he found her perfectly healthy.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Probably.
So he asked, how did she survive?
Well, that's the question that
I found some good bugs in your
answer.
house.
Yeah, there might have been a lot of insects in there. Another thing is that these guys, if it gets too hot, they can do something called estivation, which is kind of like a hibernation where their bodies kind of slow way down. And they live in a kind of arid grassland, so when it gets really hot there may not be a lot of food available, so they can kind of slow down and not go out hunting as much. And then if it gets too cold, they can hibernate. So it's possible that they found a corner, they just kind of settled in and chilled out for a month or two. The Tenrecs, when we used to have those Tenrecs, every winter they would go through a similar, it wasn't a full hibernation, but they would hardly eat at all for 2 or 3 months during the coldest season. So that's potentially what happened too.
So does the male have his head tucked? I finally see his nose, but he seems to have a lot more hair on his head than the female.
Well, I think what they can do is that the top of their head, when they want to, they can bring that forward.
I
flex
think
those muscles.
He's protecting his face because he's so nervous.
Right, and I think
she's so relaxed that.
I think. Let's see. Can you
there,
see?
there her. Whoop,
Come back.
there, her forehead went a little forward.
Yeah.
Oop.
She's real calm.
Whoops.
You okay, sweetheart? Don't jump. So yeah, they can bring that forward when they need to. They can bite too. That's not their preferred method of defense, but if you're holding one and it gets mad, it can bite you.
In the wild, do they live socially or independently?
I believe they live independently. I'm not 100%
I thought they
sure.
disperse once they get old enough.
Yes. One thing is also they are reportedly able to walk up to 8 miles a night.
I mean, I can get that. She's a speedy little.
Yeah. So another thing to think about is if you do have these as pets active,
It's
and
my
they're
enrichment
going,
alarm.
they're going to be active and they do need to move a lot. Wheels like those vertical hamster wheels are really bad for them because their feet are not made for that. So what they sell are Hedgehog Discs, which you can also buy for your small rodent pets, but they look kind of like a tilt-a-whirl a little bit on its side, and they just walk around on the disc all night long. And you can tell they do it because they go to the bathroom on it and they smash all the poop in, so you're cleaning it about once a day.
She's a cutie. I haven't seen her since she was tiny.
Yeah.
I haven't been down here.
So we wanted to remind you that all of these videos are going up they're going to be here on our Facebook page, but they're also up on YouTube, youtube.com/MillerParkZoo. So like last week, Jay Tetzloff and I, the superintendent, we did one with the baby lemur. So if you missed that one, she was super cute. She was giving us some good close-ups. So,
Oh, present.
yep, we'll clean that up in a minute. And then this Wednesday, we're going to do another live, but we're going to adjust the time a little bit. We're going to do a otter feeding, but we're not going to do it till 3 o'clock because it's a lot slower at 3 o'clock. I think we'll have a lot less, we'll have a lot fewer guests around just them talking will distract during the video. So we'll do that at 3 o'clock on Wednesday. Make sure you tune in for that. And
She wants to be against the law.
we didn't bring it today. We're still collecting names for the necklace that Grace made with the python skin in it. Maybe we'll try to bring that Wednesday
Yeah.
and show everybody. So if you donate through the button below on your Facebook page, your name will be put in a drawing for that. And finally, don't forget to come out to the zoo because we're open.
Yeah, you no longer have to call and make reservations.
Yeah,
You guys can just show up. Masks are still required to help keep other people and the animals that are COVID susceptible safe. But you no longer have to call to make a reservation. You guys can just show up with your masks and your family and your water because it's hot.
Yes. Yeah, you guys can come you can shut the video off and come right now if you like.
Yeah.
We'll be here and the hedgehogs will be in the kitchen, but you can definitely come out and see the baby lemur. She's hopping around and the otter,
Yeah.
the baby otter's out.
Baby goats are out.
Yeah, so all of our babies are out visible.
Ooh, we have one more good question to close
Okay.
out our live. Are they burrowers or do they live on the surface?
I believe they will burrow. I believe that part of those long nails are for helping to dig a burrow, because they do live where it gets fairly hot.
Yeah,
So
it's
they're
going to be
gonna
much
wanna
cooler
be
under the ground.
underground, and it's also going to be a lot safer. That the predators aren't going to be right where they can see them all the time.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for tuning in, guys.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you Wednesday.
See you
at 3.
Wednesday.